Come on.
We are live. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Goff Show. Nice to be here. Wonderful, wonderful, as always, to be here with you. Thank you for tuning in again to the show. We love you, and thank you for doing so. We have got something fantastic for you today. We're going to have some fun, I suspect, with this episode of the show today, which we like to enlighten, we like to have fun, we like to poke the bear a little. I don't know if you've noticed. We like to have a little bit of controversy. We're good with all of that, and we're really, no question is off topic on this podcast. It's not just another boring marketing or sales podcast. There's enough of those things out there, and this is definitely designed to change the way you see things in your business and your life, so that you can enjoy it. As I always say, your thoughts ultimately dictate your actions dictate your progress and your momentum in the end. So it's important that we address that, and that's what we do on the Coffee with Goffy show, that is occasionally known affectionately around the world these days as Matcha with Paul. So it's Monday afternoon. Hope you had a terrific weekend. The Goff household was busy as usual, good busy. I would describe my weekend as basketball, more basketball, a kid's 7th birthday at Urban Air on Saturday, Sunday morning for Grayson, and then more basketball, followed by soccer. I got to watch my team, Liverpool, play Newcastle yesterday. It was not a great performance, I'm going to say, but the Premier League season is back, which is cool. There's nothing better than sitting on a Sunday afternoon watching soccer, or football as I like to call it. So it was it was a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Some time with the boys as well in the pool on Saturday, and I introduced my children to Top Gun. Do we have the sound effects, please? Do we have our flyby? What is it? Your body's writing checks that your ego, or your ego is writing checks that your body can't cash. We have, I have 5 new fans of Top Gun.
Your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
There we go. That's the one. We have new fans of Top Gun in the Paul Goff household at home. Harry loved it. He absolutely loved that movie. He said, "It's cool, Dad, isn't it?" It's cool. I said, "Yeah, it's cool, son." The 1986 Top Gun for me is iconic. You guys, would you agree? Or
100%. And I really think that Maverick is like 2 points under it.
Do you think?
Maverick also, for me personally, it's just, wow.
I mean, the problem with Top Gun, it was so iconic and was so good.
Yes.
That it was always going to be difficult. Has there ever been a movie that you think the second has been better than the first, where you've had a really iconic first, where the second has been better?
Shrek, 100% Shrek 2. I
will go out on a limb. I mean, my favorite ever movie is Home Alone, right? I think number 2 is better than number 1.
I can't pick between either. I think they're both.
Lost in New York just edges it. I don't know why, whether it's New York and the city and the skyline and all of that stuff, but Lost in New York was just...
90s New York hits different. It really hits different.
Yep. So that was the Goff household at the weekend, and we are back in the office. How about you, Jay? Your weekend?
Yeah, my weekend was good.
Good?
Yeah, just hanged out, watched some...
Any progress?
No progress.
Progress on what?
My woman update.
Oh. Gotcha. So there are no women. That's what that's the
none
progress
came
report.
around yet.
Well,
Gotcha.
they're not hanging around, I think is the...
Oh.
I'm sure there is women, they're just not hanging around, right?
Gotcha.
Like, let's face it, there's no shortage of women on the planet, right? In downtown Orlando, just take a walk down there, right? Like, there ain't going to be that much problem with finding one. It's keeping one, I suspect.
Yeah.
Is the challenge? Yeah.
I've gone the route of just not even looking.
Good. I mean, you guys with your dating apps and your technology.
No dating apps.
No
here?
dating apps. No.
No.
Jay, how many have you got? What's the best? Come on, what's the best dating app right now?
Right now, probably Hinge. Only because you only get 6 likes. You got to be strategic with who you send it out to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is it unhinged? Is that the like the other?
That's what it should be called.
I've never even heard of Hinge.
Really?
Yeah.
Well. These are the things that go on in our team's life, which I'm sure as these podcasts evolve and move on, we'll get more insights. What we're going to learn about you, Andrew?
That's a That's at least 2 episodes.
Car fanatic?
Yeah.
What's your favorite car?
Oh my God.
What's the best car on the road?
There are different ones for different. I can't have an answer.
Okay.
I would say if I have a favorite brand,
Yeah.
it's a tie between Porsche and Aston Martin. Those are my 2 faves.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool.
I've got a Porsche,
Good.
so I just need an Aston Martin now.
It's a true story. I had a Porsche 911, and I was 28. I bought it. I'd been self-employed for about 2 years, and I bought a black Porsche 911. We should find some pictures of it. And my registration plate was P10 SYO. So P10 SYO. And when you put it all together, it looked like what? Physio. So it was Physio.
Ah.
And I bought it and actually became a tax beneficial to have it because, and I didn't know this at the time, but I bought it online in the days, I'm going back 20 years ago, when these kind of private regs became more common in England. And I bought it and the guy said, my accountant said, that's an asset because other physios would buy that off you. And it actually became a pretty cool tax write-off for me legally. And I own the asset. I still actually own the registration for P10 SYO in England. So P10 SYO, and it was the closest I could get to physio. So I used to drive around Hartlepool in the northeast of England in a Porsche 911 with the physio registration plate.
Well,
how cool is that?
That's not
That's
bad.
a story. Yeah.
What year 911 was it?
It will have been, when I bought it, I was 28, so it'll have been 2009-ish, and I was at that age, it'll have been about 2 years old, so whatever that would have been, 56, 57 plate, I want to say.
I don't know what that means in
Yeah,
the
it's in
US.
English, I don't know. It was about 2 years old when I bought it, going back
And you bought it in
2009, so it'll have been in 2007.
07, so that was a
Yep.
that was a 997.1.
Right,
Yep.
whatever that means, yeah. It was cool though.
Yeah.
And Natalie had a Boxster. She loved them. So we did. At one
Boxers are
point.
fun too.
Yeah. It's cool.
Super fun.
Cool cars. So, good. Right. We're going to get into today's show. Before I do, I'm going to be leaving today around about 2:30 because I've got to get to the airport. I'm flying to Cleveland tonight. And I do so to see the man, the myth, the legend, a guy called Dan Kennedy, who is instrumental in my life and my journey. And everybody needs to meet a guide, and I don't care who you are and what you think you're capable of, and how good you are at what you do, and all of the nonsense that people come out with about being superior clinical skills and all this shit. Nobody's ever achieved anything on their own, and I was very blessed to put myself in a situation where a guy called Dan Kennedy was introduced to me, and I was at a marketing seminar in London in 2013, and somebody spoke to me about this guy called Dan Kennedy, who was actually the mentor of the guy I was there to study from. And I'd gone on this conference. I set off from Hartlepool on a Sunday, which is my hometown in England. I'd gone to London Monday and Tuesday, and people started talking about this guy called Dan Kennedy, and that there was a conference in Chicago starting on Thursday. And I did. I didn't go back to Hartlepool. I booked a flight out of Heathrow on the Wednesday, and I went to a conference in Chicago, so 4,000 mile journey into Chicago, and they had a keynote speaker called Jake Seinfeld, Body by Jake. Remember him? He was the personal trainer to the Hollywood celebrities of the 80s. Anyway, I'd read about this guy, and I thought, I'm going to go, but I wanted to go see Dan. And I got to this conference in Chicago, and I stayed till the Sunday, and I remember leaving on the Sunday night, and I remember thinking, I don't know how, but I need to get close to this guy. I can't afford him at this point, but I need to get as close to this guy as I possibly can. Like, he knows everything about anything that I need to know about, basically. So I set off on my journey. I took what I knew from this event that I'd been, where Dan was the speaker, and he was, there's 1,500 people there, and didn't really get to know him at this point, but I devoured every book, every course I could buy, everything I could afford to do. And then I joined up for the mastermind. It wasn't with Dan at the start, but it was with somebody else in his team. And I made my way to Dan's programs and eventually into his mastermind. And I worked with him in a group of 10, and I'd go to Cleveland every year, 3 times a year, flying from England many times to land in Cleveland for 2 nights, and I fly back to the UK. So I've built up what I believe today, and even my kids will acknowledge with the phrase in our house is "God bless Dan," because ultimately everything that we've got today, I had to do the work and I had to do the the shit that I was told, basically. But the coach that kind of kicked it all off for me was Dan Kennedy, and I'm off to see him again tonight. Some 13 years later, I'm still going to see him. So how cool is that? And I would say to all of you guys in this office, I don't think any of us would be here if it wasn't for Dan. Now, I might have made my way, I might have found my way, I might have found another coach, and I've found some other amazing coaches. But Dan was my original. Paul, sit down. Here's how life works, kid. He was that coach, and it was this is what they're all telling you. This is your teachers, this is your parents, this is what your financial advisor is going to tell you about how life works. This is how it actually works, Paul. This is where they're all going to lose their shit, and they're all going to get emotional, and they're all going to lose their money, and they all have been told by school and college lecturers to do these things and just be a good little boy or girl and do this and follow these rules. But this is how it actually works. And these people are going to teach you about marketing, and they're going to say it's about a logo and it's about colors and brands and, you know, all of this stuff. And it's like, this is how it actually works, Paul. So Dan became, for me, if you've ever read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Dan Kennedy essentially became my rich dad, where he taught me how life works. He didn't teach me investing. He didn't really teach me about money. He told me how it moved. He told me how people spend it. He told me how and why they don't spend it, how to keep it, how to get more of it ethically, obviously, how to build a business, how marketing works, the importance of sales funnels, what KPIs matter in marketing, what message resonates, what doesn't. He essentially taught me how life works. And 13 years on, I still make a trip to Cleveland to see him. As much as anything, just out of absolute just love of the man, and having met him 13 years ago, that he's still going to this day, and I get to fly up to see him tonight is a privilege, and long may it continue. So we're off there tonight for a full VIP day with him tomorrow in his home in Cleveland. I'll take lots of pictures and maybe some interviews with him as well. We might be able to release, but he's amazing. And you might be able to find some of the footage if you're just hearing about Dan. I did have and did put some footage out of Dan Kennedy when he came to PPM Live 2023. We did PPM Live 2023. Dan Kennedy was the main speaker, and that was such a privilege to share the stage with Dan, who was and is my OG of coaching. He is my MJ. And like, if you track the success of people who have really smashed it online running these types of businesses, all roads lead back to one man, and he's loved by many of us. So I'm off to see him tonight in Cleveland and taking one or two of the staff to work on the business. You're never too cool for school. You're never rich enough to stop learning. The minute you think that you've nailed it, your life is over. And I really, really mean that. If you thought that the whole journey was about collecting pounds, shillings and pence, or collecting money in the bank or properties, that was never ever the goal. That was the happy byproduct of a life that was about pursuing knowledge and information and just wisdom. Now at this point where you're trying to really, really understand how life and commerce and people and business, how does it work? Not the bullshit that politicians or people online will tell you, who are failing and struggling at every area of their life, both emotionally, financially, spiritually, really, really struggling with that, like uber important areas that they just can't get right because they're following the wrong guide, essentially. So Dan for me is the guide, and I say it to you and I tell my kids, devour his books and his knowledge, and do anything you can to get to a conference or just be around him. He's a genius, and I try to pass on to my community one way or the other. You're getting through me, if you like, everything that Dan has taught me about how life works. And I can't recall that I've ever read anything or seen anything that he said where I think that's bullshit. There's sometimes things where I think, oh, really? And then I go investigate it, and it's like, yeah, he was right. Like, he was right again. Like, that's how that works, and that's the predictably irrationalness of a human being and how they behave. And if you understand that, it makes life and managing people and even growing and raising a family much easier than following the school smarts kind of stuff. And I think we spoke about this last week with the street smart, school smart thing. Street smart is the money, right? In every aspect, not just because it brings the money, but it brings the emotional resilience and calmness as well. It's very, very difficult to enjoy life when you don't know how it works. It's very, very difficult to enjoy life when you've got the wrong horses on the track, right? You're trying to play a certain horse race that requires a certain type of horse, and you've got donkeys, essentially. You're trying to win that race, and you're never, ever going to be able to do it. And that's what the majority of the world are doing. They are erroneously, in my opinion, they are naively at best, failing to understand and ever invest any time or money into learning how life works and the rules of it and the instruction manual for this life to be successful in it are very, very different than what we've been given and what we've been provided with at the start. So for me, Dan is just is insane. We're off there tonight. I'm very excited to go spend some some time with them. And they also have an amazing, amazing barbecue restaurant. I think it's Martin's or Mabel's. I always get it mixed up, but it's in the downtown Cleveland. I'll be there tomorrow night, which is almost worth the trip alone. Mabel's, is it Mabel's? I'm sure it's Mabel's in downtown Cleveland. I told the kids this morning I was off, and they asked me if I would keep an eye out for Donovan Mitchell. I said, well, he might be there, but I suspect he's not spending his summers in Cleveland. I wouldn't imagine. No. Where will he be? He's certainly not in downtown Cleveland or Akron or wherever, is he?
Absolutely not.
No, he's on a beach in LA somewhere or living it up in Manhattan, I would imagine. So anyway, right, let's get into it. Today we are going to talk about a subject that might be near and dear to your heart if you are a business owner, and this is the attitude of your staff. So we're really going to poke the bear today and have a discussion about what I believe to be one of the biggest blocks to you building a successful business. I think it's becoming apparent to everybody listening to this that, and just being in business in the Western world right now, the biggest challenge to your growth aspiration is staff and your ability to find them, your ability to afford them, and your ability to retain them, and your ability to manage them. Because I might be able to afford them, I might be able to retain them, but then the question is, do I want to retain you? Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And there's this wonderful word called attitude, which I didn't really understand until a few years ago as to how it possibly and probably is one of the most important elements of any human being, their attitude. And we'll get into where it comes from and why it's such a big thing in life if you're trying to be successful. But equally, we'll dissect whether or not your PT's bad attitude is costing you money. Now, this is in reference to what was the comment, producer Andrew? We put this out on Facebook, and again, it brought out the best and the worst of human beings, as it does. But I just think it's a really fun way of finding out what people are thinking about some topics that people might not dare publicly ask, right? So I asked on Facebook this question:
if there was a 2-day course on improving your staff PT's attitude, would you send them?
Nothing for sale here. But if there was a 2-day course on improving your staff PT's attitude, would you send them? Right. So this is what we're talking about on Facebook this week. And of course, we've got a wide range of comments, which we're going to get into and analyze today. And I'll give you my thoughts on it and how important it is, and why this concept of attitude could be the thing that you look out for more than anything else. I've done 20 years in business. 100 plus staff in 2 countries, multiple different types of businesses. And I've got to the point now where I could, within a couple of weeks, within reason, spot somebody's attitude as to whether it's going to be pro the business and pro just a good culture where you're working towards something and success becomes inevitable, or you're going to spend 80 to 90% of your time managing somebody's attitude, and you never really get to the point of ever discussing here's how to get better at what you do, because all we're doing is managing their attitude. And I suspect that this might touch a nerve. And what I will say as well is it's definitely there's a definite country. I've hired in 2 countries, and there's a definite difference of attitudinal problems between England and America. Now, America leads the way. I hate to say it, right? But America is a free spirit, right? You guys are free spirited, and you just like nobody tells you what to do, and you know that's fucking built into your DNA, right? Here in the US. But England is very, very quickly catching up to become where, as an employer in England, we used to be able to get staff, and they were quite stoic. They may not have always been brilliant at what they did, but they'd be there, right? And they'd show up and they'd give you their best, even if it wasn't amazing. And you didn't really have to deal with that much of an attitude problem. But it's becoming more and more that England is heading that way as well, in my experience of hiring and listening to, obviously, I have a wider spectrum of clients that I work with on a daily basis. And the number of clinic owners who are talking to me about how they've got problems with their staff culturally. You know, the culture's not right. They're always having a culture reset. And more you're feeling and hearing that this attitude, this individual's decision to act or think a certain way is becoming your problem now. It's becoming the thing that you have to deal with, and you're spending more time dealing with that. And it used to be an outlier, and it genuinely did used to be an outlier 20 years ago when I started hiring. If you got one bad egg, you were like, oh, let's just get them out. But if you're not careful, the outliers actually become the people with good attitudes who are willing and able to support you and want to support you who don't have hidden agendas, who you can trust, who you know are not lurk. Something's lurking in the background where they're going to ask you for something or demand something or surprise you with something that even though you agreed it 3 months ago, they've now changed their view or opinion because somebody's told them something. There's levels of dishonesty that creep in, I think, as well now to conversations of staff and their employees, which is making it a minefield to manage. And I do think, and as you look at it, obviously your PT is your prized racehorse. There's no getting away from it. So we've got to understand how to manage the stable. If we let too many wild horses in there, you may have some good PTs, some clinically excellent PTs, although they're not that easy to find these days either. I've said more and more recently, I think the real challenge that we need to face up to is that some PTs, many PTs, they're just rubbish. They're just rubbish at what they do. They're not good enough, despite having been there for 5 years. They aren't good enough. They're not competent enough. They can't talk to a client. Their manual skills are below par. They're not confident with what they do. They get lost in research rather than actual practical application and learning their own lessons. It appeared to me as I started to pull away from the physio clinic that this was happening, where more and more it became about the research says rather than actually I've done this 50 times and 47 out of 50 it worked. Shall I just rely upon my own knowledge base and what I know to be true rather than some boring sheep farmer in New Zealand who's been spending the last 18 years on some research that we're waiting to be published that now says everything that we've all been doing for 12 years is wrong, even though it made 97 out of 100 patients happy. This is the madness of the PT profession, that they will do things like this, that they will wait for a random guy, and it is, and I always joke, it's usually, I remember it was always fucking Australia, or it was always New Zealand, that somebody came out with some white paper that they'd been researching for years, that changed the way we all did it, even though I'd been doing it, and the outcomes that I'd got for the patients that they told me to their face were significant. And you wanted me to change it because some guy with the sheep wanted me to do so. And we wonder why everybody's so confused. I think you've got now PTs, and this plays into the attitude costing money, that they're almost a self-righteousness hiding behind white papers and everything so formal, and that they dare not, because of their own insecurities, actually lean into basic experience, like fundamental experience of this is, I've done this and it worked when I did it. Not arguing the toss every night about some new piece of research that says actually you can't do it that way anymore because it says it doesn't work. And I think if PTs don't and aren't careful soon, this is the future of the profession, where there is constant arguments about the research and the techniques, and you've got some potentially really good PTs who could just follow their nose, knowing full well that the majority of the things that they're going to do are going to work the majority of the times, not every time, because that's not possible. Even when the research says it still doesn't work 100% of the times. So we've got such a insecure kind of crowd now out there in the PT profession that they're all waiting for some new research to tell them what they can't do. And the best PTs are basically sitting down and going, yeah, I've started with some research and some common sense as to what works and what doesn't, and I've pieced something together. And now I'm able to get into a situation with a patient and I go, 50 times I've done this, 47, it worked. I've got no reason to deviate from what I'm going to do with you because I know it's going to work. And I think that's where we're going wrong. The bad attitude is creeping into the profession because there's more access to research and information, and more people are holding themselves to this kind of virtuous level of like perfection, not actually achieving anything. You throw into the mix Reddit, and you throw into the mix the internet, and you know any man and his dog can go on and say I'm not happy, and very quickly 17 PTs within 30 seconds will tell you that they're not happy and you should be asking for more, and that's not right, and your boss is bad. You know, that's before we even get into the discussion points today. So I will go on record early as saying this is a major stumbling block, that the attitude of people is the tide is turning, where it's becoming more and more about what can I get rather than what can I give. And I think that kind of early, you know, certainly 70s, 80s and 90s, you go back to those days of certainly how I was brought up, it was what can you give, not what can you get. And I do believe society has crossed that line now. It's to like, what's in it for me? What the joke was, what's the best radio station in the world? What's in it for me FM? That's where we are. And it's up to you how you think like that. But I don't know if society is getting a nicer, more happier, kind of calmer, well-rounded place It's far from it. It's becoming the opposite, because it seems to me that no matter what people get, they still want more. And the attitude of people is now the biggest challenge that you will face as a business owner, not getting customers. Customers are out there, and they are easier to find than ever. We now have a massive problem called availability of good workers, that even when people want a job, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to work when they get to work. And that's the attitudinal piece that we're going to get into it. And I'm going to let you, Andrew, read up some of the posts that have been made on this particular topic. And we're going to have some fun with it, because somebody asked me to think about the name of a course for this. And I've got some good names. And we'll have a vote at the end as to what we think is the course that we might create for attitudinally wrong PTs. But where does attitude come from in the first place? The attitude that you and any human has comes from your beliefs. If you think about it, your attitude is a external manifestation on the beliefs that you have. And if your belief is that you shouldn't have to work for a living, that will show up in your attitude. If your belief is that all bosses are bad, that will show up in your attitude. If your belief is that you shouldn't have to go over and above, that will show up in your attitude. If your belief is that you're better than everybody and your shit stinks, just because you went to college, that will show up in your attitude, which is then your decision to do as little as possible because you think you've already done the work at college. And that right there is the challenge. That I went to college, and my belief was that when I finish college, I've done enough to warrant X. And when I get in that job, whatever job it is, I shouldn't have to do A or B because I've already done the work at college. I should now just be able to sit perfectly in the seat that my ego decided I should be sitting in for the level of money that my ego decided I should be compensated for. And everything else around this thing, right? You take me into a PT clinic and show me a PT who doesn't want to clean his or her room because that's not what they do and that's beneath them. You show me, or I'll show you somebody with a belief that says that's beneath them. That's not what somebody with a college degree does. Somebody with a college degree only does X. So if you ask me to do this, I ain't going to do it. That's just not what I do. If you saw somebody with the belief that they shouldn't have to come to work on time and that doesn't matter and it's not important and people should just be able to work from home and anything goes and you can't tell me what to do and I'm a free spirit, that's a belief, right? That's just being manifested as your daily actions when somebody doesn't show up on time or they don't do what their boss asks them to do or they're not taking part in the requirements that build the business in the first place because their belief is that they shouldn't have to do that. They are naive as to what is required to be successful as a team because all they've ever thought about is how they fit into that team and what they're getting from that team. So attitude is essentially what's going to show up as a result of your beliefs. And if your beliefs are favorable, that you do know and you do think you should be in early and contributing and doing more and happy to have a job and thankful and grateful that somebody's took all of the risk and the responsibility and got themselves into hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, which most business owners do to start this business to give people jobs. If your belief is that that's cool and I'm grateful and thankful to be part of this because I don't want to take the risk, then you will end up with an employee that wants to help you. And it's as night and day. The biggest challenge that you have to understand as a clinic owner and as a boss, you will never change anybody's attitudes because essentially to do that, you have to change beliefs. And beliefs are 88% consistent. And once they're hardwired, as you're watching, all people do is look for reasons to reinforce the beliefs that they've already got. Even though their life is a shit show, these beliefs are like your chromosomes, right? Your chromosome will dictate your health and how you live and, various things, right? Your physical kind of your physical manifestation, if you like, right? And a chromosome that any change to it will affect how you live. And any effect or any belief that you have, it will affect how you live, right? So if we want to change how we live, we go back and change our beliefs. But what you find is in healthcare, and this is my little piece on it, why most of you are getting stuck is you're trying to change attitudes and you're trying to bring somebody to Jesus almost. It's that like come to Jesus moment. I'm going to reset expectations is another phrase that business owners often use. And you think that by putting them on a performance plan or putting this thing in front of them and sign it and, if we don't see an improvement, it doesn't fucking work. The goal is really as quickly as possible to find out, do we have an attitudinal problem here, or is there genuinely something that can be done? And the minute you realize it's a behavioral problem, you're in hell, right? Like, an attitudinal problem, you're in hell trying to change it. And all you can ever then do is accept it. It's either okay and I can tolerate it, but I'll have some consequences, or I need to cut that person out. One of the two, and there's no in between. So trying to change it is futile, and you can't and you won't. Not even with the best 2-day course in the world that I am proposing that you send your PTs on, you will not change that. You either accept and tolerate it, and you turn a blind eye, and knowing that the attitude isn't great, but I can accept it because it's not so bad that it brings the house down. Or if it is starting to bring the house down and it is starting to disrupt the clinic and everything in it, you have to recognize that very quickly, but instinctively remind yourself that you do not and cannot and will not ever be able to change that person's attitude. And that's a problem for somebody in healthcare for this reason, because you are a healer, you are a fixer, and you think that you can fix anything and everybody, and that's in your DNA and that's who you are. That's in your belief system. So your attitude is, I can change that. And you can't, and you never have, and you never will. What needs to be is let's put some big boy pants on, or girl pants on, and accept that you can't, and that's not your job and never has been your job to change somebody's attitude. Your job and your only job is to run the business, find people that want to push that rock up the hill that we keep talking about, and recognize when you've got somebody with an attitudinal problem that has a belief problem that does not support the positive running of a successful business. And the day that you accept that, I would go on record of saying that to you, 80% of your frustrations and the weights that you are carrying trying to run this business will fall off. Because most of the pressure and frustration that you're living with, dear listener, is that you are trying to change people that can't. I am very, very quick to acknowledge that I can't change somebody's attitude. And I'm as predictable as clockwork, and I'll speak to one or two people around me who are obviously in certain positions, and very early I'll say that person's attitude is not for fixing. Then the only question is still the performance acceptable? And can we get a little bit out of them for however long, because the attitude is not going to be changed? Now, if the attitude is so negative and so bad because it's affecting their role and everybody else around them, then we've got to start looking at how quickly do we move them out of the building, not what performance plan can we put them on. Because you will not and cannot ever change somebody's attitude. They might on their own, and that might happen while they're in your employment, but it won't be anything to do with what you've done for them. That will be their own independent judgment decision, finally waking up one day and going, do you know what? My life's pretty shit right now. I wonder if it might be something to do with my attitude. And the answer is it is for everybody. Their attitude to work, their attitude to money, their attitude to spending, their attitude to health. And all of that stems back to beliefs. How my beliefs are shaped and what beliefs I choose will essentially show up in my attitude, and my attitude shows up at work every day. Or in life every day in the relationships that I've got. If I've got shitty relationships, I have a shitty attitude. If I've got shitty finances, I might not have the best attitude when it comes to work and kind of moving through the gears and the ladders. And that's something that I then need to fix. But only I, or you, if you like, can fix that. So I try very hard to just keep out of it. Recognize it quickly, knowing full well that there's not much that I can do about it. And then just asking the question, the attitude might not be great, but can I work with it, and can I live with it, and can I accept it? But the minute I'm drawn into drama, I'm out, and you're out as quickly as is humanly possible. So what we got? What's happening? What they're saying on Facebook?
So Robbie Fleming, responding to what he sent his PTs to the course, he says, no, if a PT had a consistently bad attitude, I'd just fire them. I don't think a course would change their heart.
There you go. I agree. Yep. What else?
So, okay, Garrett DeRosier.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Yep.
This is a lengthy one.
Okay.
So as owners, we need to recognize that not every physical therapist who applies to our company will ultimately be the right fit for the organization, and that's okay. Rather than making short-term hiring decisions simply because we need to fill an open position, we have to think long-term. The goal should be alignment in culture, values, motivators, expectations, and ultimately whether the organization and the employee can genuinely help one another achieve their goals. We're halfway through there.
Okay, let me just pause there. I'll jump in. And that's brilliant what's been said there. And that is the ultimate nirvana that we're trying to get to. The reality is nirvana doesn't exist of running a business ever, right? You're always counterbalancing. And that can be our North Star, that we want everybody in alignment and we want everybody on the same page. The truth is you will, even with the best hiring process in the world, like Chick-fil-A have got a fantastic reputation for great service, great culture. They still let rogues in, right? And they let actors in. Now, they find them quickly by the looks of it, and they let them go. And I think that's the bit that I want to raise here, is that you have to accept that your ship is always rocking, right? That the ship is always being rocked by somebody. We just don't know the size of the waves or the ripples that it's creating as a result of their stomping around the deck, right? Figuratively, the kind of huffing and puffing and kind of aggression or negative attitude that they'll bring to the building. We don't know the ripple effect, and it is usually 60 to 90 days. Now, you can sometimes see within 2 weeks, in all honesty, but it's usually 60 to 90 days for it to settle down. Then you have to catch yourself at this point, reminding yourself that the North Star is this, and my only goal is to remind them of the North Star and to then let that person self-select. And consciously catch yourself every time you get into a discussion with an employee. Am I about to try and correct somebody's attitude or beliefs, which is, by the way, statistically, I believe it's 88% consistent throughout the entirety of a human being's life, that your beliefs. Be careful of the beliefs that you choose, because that will determine the quality of your life. That was the phrase I was given very, very early. If you have too many beliefs, too strong beliefs, be very, very careful, because that will determine the quality of life that you get. If you believe in hard work, go all in on it. But if you believe that everything should be given to you and that it's rich people's fault that you're not rich, I'm not saying that that's the agenda being pushed out there right now by some people in some societies, some countries even, but if you buy into that belief, then you're in for a world ahead. You're hoping that somebody changes rules and Robin Hood comes back out and robs from the rich to pay for the poor, and the banks start confiscating money, and in some countries they probably will and possibly already have, right? But you have to be very, very careful of that belief. If I've got a belief that is a work ethic belief and that money is earned because I work hard and I contribute and I bring value, then that's going to set you up for life. But if I have a belief that somebody else is responsible for all my problems and it's not my fault, then you're in for a world ahead, because there's nothing that you can do to change that. You're waiting quite literally for somebody else to change the belief patterns for you. So the idea that I could change an employee's, a staff PT's attitude is frankly not going to happen. And what we need is some kind of spontaneous, conscious awareness, awakening, where as a boss, I'm walking in thinking, what am I dealing with now? Performance or attitude correction? If it's attitude correction, I need to step back and just remind myself that this isn't the game that I'm playing. And if the employee doesn't want to change or doesn't appear to want to change and get on the path, I've got to let you go. Or I've got to make plans to let that person go soon. Or just turn a blind eye, because the attitude sometimes, although maybe not ideal, it's actually livable with, right? It's better than the consequence of nothing at all, or like not bringing anybody in if you can't find somebody. But this is where you need the discernment piece constantly as a business owner, to ask constantly, the ship's rocking, is anybody going to go overboard, right? Like, or do I need to throw somebody overboard, essentially, as a result of the attitude and the belief that that these people are bringing. What else? What else is he saying?
He also basically wraps up his comment saying that recruitment should be an ongoing process throughout the entire year, where you're constantly building consistent relationships with good people before you ever need to hire them. Which
you've got to remember as well out there right now. There's a great phrase that he who cares least wins. He who cares least essentially has the most power, right? And you might take that, Jay, from some dating advice. He who cares least usually wins, right? Seriously, like what you find. Like, I remember going back to the dating years, right? And all my friends who like really were head over heels in love with all these girls, they never got anybody, right? The guys that were just, fuck off, whatever, right? I'm not interested. Like, he who cares least nearly always got the girl. He who went too far and sort of put all their eggs in one basket usually had their heart broken, right? And it's the same in business. He who cares least typically wins. The ones who get so emotionally caught up in it all usually lose. And that's what you find. Business owners are so emotionally kind of attached to everything that they're doing and need to win desperately, and it's at all costs, and I've got my ego on the line here, and I'm trying to prove to my parents how successful I can be. They usually end up the worst business owners because they care too much. And if you think back to society 20 years ago when I first started hiring people, you could put a job ad up for 4 weeks and 86 people would apply, and they'd all wait for the decision. Nobody would not come for the interview. Very, very few would not come for an interview. Today it's 50-50. If you offered somebody the job, they took it and they jumped at it, and they were so grateful. And there was very, very few people. I can never remember pre-COVID that much. There was the odd one or two, but not much in a 15-year pre-COVID business career where somebody emailed me on a Sunday and said, I know I'm supposed to start tomorrow, I'm not coming. It just didn't happen. Society was very, very different now, right? And so what we've got, and we have to understand, the real knowledge is power, that is awareness. 20 years ago, the business owners had a lot of power because there was more people than jobs. Now it's the other way around. You've got more jobs than people actively want to do that job. There's enough people to fill them, but fucking 10% of the planet will never get off their ass regardless, right? There's always, even when you read unemployment and they'll say, oh, it's 9%. Well, 5% of the fuckers wouldn't have a job if it was in front of them. Do you know what I mean? They just wouldn't have a job and take it and couldn't stick at it, and they'd rather the government pay for everything. So now you've got a situation where employees are really dealing with, they're finding it very, very hard to manage these attitudes because they're frightened of losing somebody because they can't replace them. And I think that's where it goes back to, who are you? What do you want? How do you want to make your money? Are you willing to make your money even though that you go to work every day with some rat bags who treat you like shit, who have got vicious opinions about everything political that you have to put up with and listen to, that you know isn't what you believe in or what you agree or how you would raise your children, but you're listening each day to 2 or 3 jumped up, vicious, self-righteous, physical therapists coming every day, having their opinion on anything and everything except about doing just a fucking good job and how we're going to do it and serve our customers better. And then the icing on the cake, that they come and ask you every 3 or 4 months for another $10,000 because, the business has grown in the last 6 to 9, 12 months, and I want a bit more of that risk that you took. I want a bit more of the outcome without the risk that you took. So this is the predicament, and I think a lot of it goes back to that as a business owner, you have to be so self-secure and so self-sufficient and remind yourself all of the time. And I've used this phrase so many fucking times, I'd be very, very happy. Whatever I have to do to go and get my kids, if they need food and water on that table, I'm doing it. If I have to fucking drive an Uber, if I have to work in McDonald's, if I have to go and clean shit, I will do it. I have a proven track record since 16-year-old of 3, 4, 5 jobs at any one time. I'm not shy of going to make money to pay the bills. And if you don't come back to that basic premise, right, people will walk all over you because as a business owner, obviously you think you need people all of the time. And to a certain degree you do, to achieve certain ambitions. But to make a living and pay the bills, I think it just helps to remind yourself whenever these attitudes go a bit in a direction that you might not like to want to deal with and you're frightened of losing them, just a harsh reset of yourself and a reminder that actually if half the fuckers walked away, you'd be more rich anyway. And I tell clinic owners this regularly. When these jumped up, I'm going to say hormonal, I'm going to say fucking virtuous, attitudinal PTs come out of college after 12 months fucking reading white papers from Australians and New Zealanders telling you how to fucking run your business, and you think that you have to deal with this lot for the rest of your life. I think just a healthy reminder every now and again that you are actually richer and better off by just fucking going back to being a solo practitioner with a massive caseload and charging $300, $400 a session. And if you run the numbers on that, you might not want that for the rest of your life, but you could certainly live a terrific life for 2 or 3 years while you regroup. Now, I'm not saying that that's my advice, but what I'm saying is this is how I start to think about life, that if everybody walks out the door, well, what happens? Okay, right, the business isn't as big as it was. Would Paul be okay? Yes, because Paul's a valuable asset to a hell of a lot of people. Paul's value to his patients, still to this day, I could go back and open a clinic. And if I announced on Facebook that I was coming back, I'd have 100 people outside the door on Monday morning wanting to pay me however much an hour. So I don't really have to worry about money, right? Because I can always go make it somewhere, somehow. And it's the same in business. Everybody walks out of this office, fine, not ideal, but I put an announcement out that I'm going to do one-on-ones and I'm going to do VIP days exclusively, and it's me that you're going to deal with. I'd have 100 customers lined up at the door on Monday morning. Like, it wouldn't, it's not what I would want to do, because I have aspirations and dreams to grow businesses and impact as many people as I can. And I do like having team and people around me, good people around me. I enjoy it. I get a vibe and a energy of good, just good people, just good, decent people around me. And I take that as part of a bonus. If you build a business successfully, you get to choose your culture and your environment. And I don't have to go and take part in all of the bullshit that's out there in other jobs or in other places, corporate, wherever. So sometimes you just got to remind yourself that that is what your option is. You don't have to deal with bullshit from people. You might not be able to find PTs, and that's not ideal, but we don't have to take rat bags who come in and are attitudinally broke and will be for the next 50 years of their life and should and will end up in some corporate crummy, crappy hospital system where they're all as ugly and as miserable as each other, all worrying about the next fucking thing that Trump's going to do or whatever's going on in their state or what governor or whatever. No real meaningful conversation about life and the depth of it and just fun and energy and just good things in life. They're always bringing, and that's what you find with people with shitty attitudes, they always have a hidden fucking agenda because nothing's ever their fault. It's always somebody's fault. And I always lean into the politician because obviously that's the most obvious prevalent thing that they're probably seeing because of the way the media and the politicians are kind of in bed with each other. They'll always bring up something that isn't their fault and should be better, and the self-righteousness of it to show how good they are and how virtuous they are. They're never really talking about the good things in life and just fun things and people and like good people and good stuff that goes on, and just the fact that the fucking sun's up and the sky's blue, and do you know what I mean? You can go for a walk with your kids or a bike ride on a weekend, like just fun things that just become miserable, cantankerous, scorn, twisted fuckers that you have to think that you have to let into your clinic. And that's where I don't really have a solution for you to fix it, other than you have to be aware of it. And what I want you to know through this podcast is it is not normal to accept it. It is common to accept it, but you should not be accepting that in your life, not your business. Because I don't think this is a business conversation. I think this is a life conversation. You go to bed with these people on a night. And just let that sink in. When you get these attitudinal fuckers coming into your office, you take these people to bed with you. And if you're going to bed tonight and the person that you're thinking about isn't the person laying next to you in that bed, you have an attitudinally corrupt human being in your office on your payroll. And for me, not one dime that they bring in would be worth a life spending with that person. There would not be one dime that you could give me that at the other end would be worth me sacrificing the next 10, 30, 40, 50 years of my life dealing with and working with all day long some politically motivated, virtuous, jumped up, entitled PT that's come out of school having read a couple of books who thinks that they're worth $150,000, and you have to give it to them and you have to dance to their tune, and it comes with this laundry list of exceptions. I will not do that, and I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that. And if you make me do that, I'm going to quit. And I won't even give you any notice. And that's kind of where we're at and where we've got to with PTs in this profession. And if you're not careful, you become a very weak boss. Weak humans become weak bosses, or weak humans are weak bosses. And it all goes back to your self-confidence and your self-belief and just a little bit of knowledge of how life works and a little bit of a reality check. I would be walking in there in that office if I had a couple of these attitudinally corrupt PTs, and that's what we should call them, attitudinally corrupt PTs, that just aren't going to serve you and your family and your business well. You need to cut the cord on those fuckers as humanly fast as possible to get them out of not your business, your life. What else we got?
So, in response to, how much would you pay? Eric Gibbs just says blank check.
Well, I know Eric very, very well, and I suspect Eric might be the first person to sign up for the course. I think we should create a course. I think we should do. Well, and we see how many PTs actually do send their class. In fact, let's do it at PPM. Why don't we create an attitudinal correction course that runs side room parallel to PPM?
Well, this does kind of bring in Leanne Park's comment. She said, "I'm just here to see what the names of the course would be."
Oh.
So now we have to come up with a name for the course.
Okay, right. Well, I think we've just found another room at PPM. So we have a track for staff PT already, a clinical track. We have a track for marketers. We have a track for ops assistants and number twos. And we have a track for the business owners at PPM. It's a multi-track conference that you can bring your staff to. But I wonder if there's enough interest and you get in touch with us on Instagram at the Paul Goff and you send me a little message. Would you be interested in a room that is running parallel to the tracks that I just mentioned? And we run a 2-day course on attitudinal correction of your PTs. And we don't tell your PTs that they're going on an attitudinal correction course. We just put them in a room for 2 days with all of the other miserably corrupt, attitudinal, hormonal, immature, self-righteous. Did I mention self-righteous? PTs. And we put them all together. I'll start the 2-day course naming the Miserable Bastard Reset.
Okay. My
where
suggestion
Yep.
is physical therapy, and you just cross out physical.
Physical.
And you just call it therapy, and you just have therapists.
What about from eye roll to role model?
Okay.
From eye roll to role model. You having that one, Joe?
I like it.
Where we at? Keep track of these. The PT personality adjustment process. We'll give them 14 CEUs for that.
And for those that don't know what that is, what's a CEU?
They'll know. A CEU is the credits that they get as a result of going on courses.
Gotcha.
The more credits you get, they've got to hit so many every year. Restoring positive range of emotion, which is a play on the restoring positive range of motion, which we all do as PTs.
Yeah.
How about restoring positive range of emotion
Okay.
for these PTs?
Okay.
I wonder if we should post these for Leanne so she can see them. In fact, this is our next post on Facebook today. We will do a poll on what the course in the class should be. Clinical excellence without hiring a pain in the ass. Are we having that one? I think my personal favorite might be this one. The employee you thought you hired. A 2-day journey back to their interview personality. Which one gets your vote? The miserable bastard reset is got a British ring to it, though. I think it's more Paul.
What about the glute mute?
The glute mute.
Yeah,
Yep.
you shut up the
Yep.
assholes.
How about just smack him in the face and tell him to F off 2-day course?
off.
Yeah. I think we need to have a vote. We'll ask our listener to get in touch. Instagram at the Paul Goff. The question of the day: which of these courses would you send your PT on? If you've got a miserable, cantankerous, egotistical, self-righteous, virtuous, emotionally bankrupt, borderline corrupt PT in your office, on your payroll, currently asking for more money, holding you to ransom, which course do you think that they should be put on? Number one, the miserable bastard reset.
Also a good name for a prog band.
Yes, okay. Vote number 2 for from eye roll to role model. Vote number 3 for the PT personality adjustment process. Vote number 4 for restoring positive range of emotion. Vote number 5 for clinical excellence without hiring a pain in the ass. And vote number 6 for the employee you thought you hired. A 2-day journey back to their interview personality. Answers on Instagram, please, at the Paul Goff, and we will set that class up for you. And you can send your PT with love to Orlando to be put in a side room, and we'll do our best. Which does raise the question, can you train attitude? Do you think you can train attitude, guys? Last question. I got a flight to catch.
I think yes and no.
You're not allowed to sit on the fence on this show.
Fine. Yes.
Jay?
Yeah, I believe you can.
How? So here we go. If you wanted to change your own attitude, what would you do?
First, you have to want to change it.
Okay.
That has to be the main thing. And then, secondly, it's just, it's that whole looking inward thing that people seem to lack, that the ability to look inward and the ability to criticize yourself, self-awareness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to try to find the positives on how the cause and the effect of changing the specific attitude. If the positives look way better than the cons, obviously, then you can't be in denial about it. You kind of just got to fix it.
So most people's attitudes change and turn around the fastest as a result of a breakdown. Most people are not that lucky to have a breakdown, and take this the right way, and it shouldn't be taken any other way than is, right? And that doesn't have to be this kind of, hospitalized breakdown. It can just be a almost a motor vehicle style. Life has just hit an abrupt pause, right? It just nothing is moving on for me, and the best thing I can do here is almost a meltdown and just a complete reset of everything, and an acceptance that life has got so bad that it just isn't working for me right now. And my belief around because if you think about it, everything, right? What's the classic case? You could smoke, eat unhealthily, and drink like a trooper, as we'd say in England, all your life, right? And you would do nothing about it till you sit in front of the doctor and he says, if you don't change your diet in the next 6 months, you're dead. That's a breakdown. That is an absolute come to Jesus moment where somebody's telling you your current belief isn't supportive of you living the life that you want, and you have to realize that. Now, we see it with business owners. Nearly always, somebody's been in business for 10 or 12 years, and they've come to the realization that their current beliefs about what they want. So right now, listening to this, somebody genuinely believes that insurance with no wellness is the route to success, right? No AI, no wellness, and just march out more and more referrals from a doctor. That's their beliefs. Somebody's 10 years on that journey now who's waking up and possibly around this podcast thinking, holy shit, I'm better off literally burning the boats on this entire building and business. I need to go in a different direction. I need to change my beliefs. For a lot of people, unfortunately, it has to get so bad that they're willing to rip the whole thing up and start again. Most of us are not that lucky that we get that mentor, a guide, an intuition that is being followed, because, of course, then you need the discipline. The ego gets involved and says, but, you've lived your life so far well, don't. That's the bit you've got to catch yourself realizing and understanding that the same voice that got you into the problem is telling you not to get out of it. And when you can override that, the Jay kind of hit it, the self-awareness, I think, or was it you? We talked about the self-awareness there, and that is, if you can get that voice that's telling you, like the same voice that tells you to go to the fridge to eat pizza, then 30 seconds later tells you you're stupid and you're pathetic because you did. It's the exact same voice. And if you can catch and control that, and almost like a little wake up around it, I think the other thing that changes beliefs, and this is what will play into this, is the environment that you're in. So for me, I told you the story at the start of this. I had to leave Hartlepool to learn to live this life. I had to leave Hartlepool to learn this life because everybody around me was living the typical life, the typical kind of job, the typical life, the typical house. Some of them slightly better than the others, but in all intents and purposes, it was kind of the same life that everybody was living. Same thoughts, same conversations, same salary, same cars, same estate. Like, it was the same. I had to go find a group of people that thought radically different in order for me to change my beliefs. Essentially, I had an intuition that I wasn't happy with the path that I was on, and then I had to go find somebody or a group or an environment that was different than the one I was in that allowed me to change my beliefs of what was possible. And when I get around people who tell me what's possible, then it's up to me to go, actually, this current belief about I can't or that won't doesn't work for me. And I need to change that to what if it could? What if it did? And it's a belief in possibility mindset, and that's certainly what it was for me. Because even, you talk about this obviously attitude, it's such a spectrum that you're on. Like, there's an argument that even Paul, pre-this and pre-America, was relatively successful. I'd have been in the top 1% of income earners in Hartlepool. I had a big house, a Porsche on the drive at 28. I had a good income, a good life. I was traveling 4 or 5 times a year. I was in the top 1%, right? But for me to get to like this level of life where then you'd get to a certain top 1% of national income earners in the United States and living a certain life in celebration and, your kids and everything else, I had to change my beliefs again. Do you get me? So at every step, so I didn't necessarily have bad beliefs because I was doing okay with the beliefs that I had at 28. I was doing well relative to everybody else. But when I realized I wanted something better for myself, those beliefs that got me to that top 1% in Hartlepool weren't going to get me to the top 1% of income earners in the United States.
It's like a ceiling.
Yeah, there isn't. So there's a spectrum. So we talk about down here the bad attitude, right, that keeps people stuck. Now, if you've got credit card debt coming out your ass, you're always miserable, you're unhealthy, everything's a problem, everybody irritates you, you have a seriously bad fucking set of belief systems, a seriously bad set of belief systems that are not serving you well. And even, I hope, and I'm bringing the clinic owner back into this, a clinic owner with a shitty business that's been shitty for 2 or 3 years has a belief problem. They have a belief system problem. Their belief about what they need to do and what needs to happen to run that business is wrong. Now, even though they might be nice human beings and nice people to be around and care and everything else, the belief systems are wrong as to what it is needed to run that business and what is required of that person. Because the same thing we could be talking about here, and didn't somebody what did somebody say? Business owners. Who slagged the business owners off?
Ryan Crandall said, how about a two-day course on correcting the owner's attitude?
Yeah, we could do a full podcast on this, that the owners, we might. Do you know what? Let's do this. We might pick this one back up. let's get it into this in the next podcast. And I think it might help if we try to understand the difference between an employee's belief, right, and a business owner's beliefs as to what is required of success and what is required in a business and for it to be successful. Because what we get is a comment like that where he's like, well, the business owner needs a reset in attitude. And maybe some do, right? But and or, what if there is just an absolute disconnect between a business owner's belief who looks at it and go, we need to behave like this, we need to arrive like this, we need to customer service like this, we need to sell like this, we need to market like this. None of those things are inherently bad, except if we get somebody in the building whose beliefs are completely opposite to that. Now, it wouldn't take long, right, for you, like let's just leave it in here. If you arrived, right, week 2, and you had fundamentally different beliefs to me about what it takes to be successful, and I'm saying to you, we need to do this, Andrew, and you just see me as well, I want to do this, and it's about consistency, and it's about this, and this. And if you sat there and went, oh, that's a load of shit, like, that's not what you need, you don't need to do all that, it's all irrelevant, you only need 1 post a day, or 1 post a week, or whatever it would be. If that was your belief, and this was my belief, we're going to clash. Like, it's not religion, but it's like you believe Catholic and somebody else is Protestant or whatever. Like, it's 2 different versions, right? We're not going to win. We're not going to get anywhere. So mine's not wrong and yours is not wrong. But what we've got to try and find, and we can't ignore, and this will be a great discussion somewhere, someday, that still to this day, success has a playbook. Much like being healthy has a playbook, right? And we've passed through this in society where, I will bring it up, but you would have been allowed and or you weren't even allowed to say somebody who was grossly overweight was wrong, right? Even though it was unhealthy, right? Do you get me? It was like, we weren't even allowed to say it. And any suggestion that you say, look, that's not conducive of a healthy, or you're not allowed to say that, like that person's healthy in their own way. And it's like, no, you will die of a heart attack if you go on like that. That is a fact, right? And this is the bullshit world that we've come into. We talked about it the other day with the transgender in WNBA. Like, we're in this grey area now, this grey zone where, like, you eat that pizza every night for 3 years, you will be obese and you will have a heart attack. Like, it's unless you get hit by a bus first, you will have a heart attack by 60. We can't run from the health playbook, and we can't hide from a success playbook in life. They want to, as in politicians and people who are ill-disciplined with ill standards, who are watching this all day, every day, from mayors in New York and Michigan telling everybody that they can have it for free, my country, telling everybody that they can have it for free and it's not their fault and they don't have to do anything. So now they're having to kind of reinvent this success playbook that says, no, like, that's not how you get successful. Like, all of these things are bad. If you want me to get at work early, that's bad, Paul. You want me to actually do work when I get there and not play on my phone, that's bad. You want me to talk to a customer about what it costs and like the value of my product? No, Paul, I'm not doing that anymore. That's bad. And like, you think it's salesy to market? That's bad, Paul. No, like, we're violating a basic success playbook that is fundamentally still true to this day. And millions of people are benefiting from it. And the ones who are not benefiting from it, and this is where I see the tension happening in society, and this is a wider conversation, is somebody who's basically saying it's okay to eat pizza every night and you're still going to be healthy. If we get to that in businesses, which we are getting this needle between an employer and an employee. Like, it'd be interesting, again, the more you hang around with me, you're going to go, this guy's a complete fucking Fruit Loop and a nut job, and I hate him, and it's wrong, and it's whatever. But, and I would say this to every employee, I suspect that a lot of people who've worked for me over the years would want some version of my lifestyle, right? The income, definitely. The house, probably. The travel capability. The ability to go anywhere, do whatever within reason, right? And that's not being arrogant to suggest that. No. They would want that, right? There's no doubt whatsoever. But then I come along and I go, here's how you get it. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. That's wrong. I want that, just not like that. And that is where we are right now. I want this thing. I just don't want to get it like that. Now, I subscribe to the very early Dan Kennedy, kind of Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, track it all the way back to success principles, which are fundamentally, look at the books everywhere around me, success principles of 50s and 40s and 60s. It hasn't changed one bit. And the people who are struggling are trying to find now a new version, or like a diluted version of that says, well, that's wrong. We want this, but we don't have to do all of this. And I think that's where that type of comment is creeping in, because that's obviously an employee who doesn't like the rules that the employee is setting. But if I've got a success based set of rules that are proven beyond any reasonable doubt, and you don't like it, and you think, well, actually, I want success, but not like that, well, then we're going to have friction. But I'm like, again, if I could find an easier way to be successful in this shit that I have to deal with, fuck me, I'd take it. Like you would. If you could find an easier way than to have to do some of the shit that I have to do or go through or conversations I have to have, I'd absolutely find it. But I can't. And equally, if I could find a pizza I could eat every night, I'd eat the fucking thing every fucking night. And if I could find a way to drink 10 pints of IPA without a hangover, I would find a way to do it. But there isn't one. So if I don't want a life with a hangover every day, I can't drink 4 IPAs every night, right? I can have 1, 2 here and there, but I can't have one every night. Otherwise, I'm going to violate basic laws of life. And that appears to me where we are right now. There is so much friction and so much tension between employees and bosses, and it's caused because of the attitudinal. And if I think it's because we need to do this, this, and this, and you think, no, we don't do this, this, and this, I've got this belief, you've got this belief. I would put it out and you better make sure your belief is serving you well. Right? And I would say this to anybody. You better make sure the quality of your life is exactly where you want it to be. And if it's not, it's because it's the belief systems. If it is where you want it to be, it's because of your belief systems. If you've got a successful business, it's because your belief system is about being successful, being around people, learning, growing, getting around successful people, being humble enough to change and move and everything else. And if your business is shit, it's because your belief system says you're a good PT and you should have been successful by now and you refuse to change it. What do you think?
Being myopic is the absolute death of any aspiration, 100%.
What does that mean?
Myopic? Myopic is like someone who just sticks with one belief system and refuses to listen to anybody else, and they just stay on that path and they don't deviate from it. That is how you fail every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree a lot to your opinion. I feel like I agree a lot of your opinions. When I explain this to like anyone that I talk to, I talk as like the business owner standpoint. Not that like it's stuck within business, but it's like if I was a business owner, you'd have to understand this if you want to be successful. And if you're in denial about certain things, you're like, oh, I won't bring this person on because she's this or that. It's like you might not be successful. I mean, you might fail as a business owner doing that. So
I think it's as well. It goes back to self-belief and confidence and understanding how life works. And when you've read the books on how life works, it becomes very easy not to be duped by somebody coming in, a classic PT, full of hot air, full of smoke and full of mirrors and daggers, telling you and confusing you, this is what they're saying in college and this is what we need to do. And didn't you see on the internet last night? No, you can't say that. And, oh, did you see that? See all the comments on Facebook. That means if you agree with them, you're a bad person. And if you don't understand how life works, you will live perpetually insecure and you will always be duped by these stupid people. And the reality is that the people who have the shittiest lives shout the loudest about how to live. The people with no money have the biggest opinions on investing. The people who are miserable tell you how to be happy. Right, this is, again, a thing that I wish I'd knew early as a kid, that when you wake up to this and you just see these people coming in your office, if you're insecure and you don't know how life works, you're going to be duped by this lot. And I'll leave you with the final phrase for me, which sums this up. If you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. You stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And I don't think people in business, they don't stand for anything. Like, literally, they don't stand for anything. They don't have this is like, I'll just die on the sword of what I believe to be true about success. And like, I'll just I'll burn the fucking thing down before I ever go any other way of letting people get away with things. I can't. Like, it just violates what I know to be true about being successful. I'd rather just go back to doing it on my own. And I've said that from day one. I'll just go back and do it on my own. I'm not here to make money, kissing people's asses and sacrificing pieces of myself every single day in the name of making money. It's how we make money that's as important as anything else. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And sadly, that's kind of where a lot of business owners are right now, particularly in this profession, because they're being duped by these bad attitude, emotionally immature, emotionally unregulated PTs who are coming out of college, pumped up to hell, all telling each other that they're worth this much money and they deserve this much money. And the reality is they haven't even learned to scratch their own ass. Most of them don't even know where their ass is from their elbow at this point, and they're asking for this much money and not contributing in any way. And you as a business owner, if you fall foul for this, more fool you, is what I would say.
I think there's a Mark Twain quote it's easy to fool somebody. It's impossible to convince somebody that they've been fooled.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, love it. I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to head out to an airport. Good call. Thank you, guys. Let's get this up on the podcast replayer. Get in touch at the Paul Goff on Instagram is where we will talk to you. I'm on Facebook, Paul Goff, and on my Facebook business page, Paul Goff Physical Therapy Marketing. We're building up some good interaction, some good dialogue. Don't stay on the outskirts. Get involved. Remember, PPM Live is our big event. PPMLive26.com. Enter your details there. You'll get up to the minute real-time pricing, as well as any offers that we've got for free hotel rooms once you get on that list. Please do so and come and see us in Orlando. Get part of the Planet Paul community. You cannot do this on your own. We've got the most successful business owners. Did I say the best looking as well? We've got the best looking, funnest, most humble, polite and kind business owners anywhere in the world. Come and be part of them. Or you could be one of the boring flying off to Denver. You could, whichever way you want. It could be that scene off Home Alone, do you know, where he sits and his parents go off to, where does his parents go?
Paris.
They go off to Paris and he goes off to New York. You could either be on that flight and your pilot announces, we're off to boring Denver with a load of boring other PTs, or you could be off to Orlando where the magic happens.
We got palm trees, sunsets.
We got palm trees, sunsets, money-making advice. We got the happiest place on earth. Choose wisely where you're going in November. See you in Orlando. PPMLive26.com. Thank you.